one of the things I think that helped me, well, let me just first say that the reason I think that these positions were even funded, I think, is that you've got to realize back then, and I still think there's a little bit of it still, there's a on the Vineyard, I want to call it like a cultural reverence for shellfish. When I first came, you could go to a coffee shop or a bar, and within like 5 or 10 minutes, somebody would be talking shellfish. That's how central it was to the existence here. And I mean, like Paul talked about, you know, how good the scalloping was, and that, you know, you could buy a house with it. So at that point, I think, but I mean, I think I came, and I'll blame it on Jacques Cousteau, is that, oh, we have a shellfish biologist, he's going to wave a magic wand and the ponds are going to be just full of shellfish, you know, and it's not that easy, and the wild fishery in particular, you don't have control over a whole lot of things. But they were, I had worked at hatchery and could grow seed. So that's pretty much what they wanted me to do. And one of the things that was true because of this cultural reverence, I mean, shellfish seed was right up there with, you know, motherhood and apple pie. If you could produce some shellfish seed, you were golden. So that's kind of the way that they, you know, they basically wanted a hatchery, and we were able to pull that off. It wasn't easy in the beginning, but the support was there. My board was made up of the shellfish constables in all the towns, and they always had my back. It was good. They gave me enough, you know, as they say, freedom to hang yourself, but they gave me that kind of freedom, and so long as I was producing some seed, they let me do what I want to do. So that was really cool. One of the things I was going to say is why I think I lasted longer than the town biologists, especially, well, in Edgartown, and then there was actually a biologist up in Aquina for a while, but with the tribe. Bottom line was that I was kind of a step away from local politics. To give you some idea, the biologist, the third one in Edgartown, he got involved in like regulations, and I would kind of, I mean, if somebody asked about regulations with me, I would say, well, if this happens, if you do this, this might happen. If you do this, this might happen. But I was not in a position on a town level to say, okay, we're going to close this bed or open that bed. And I think, and I don't know, Paul, maybe you remember that, but Scott, when he was there, I think his downfall was when they first decided to do a rotational closure of the beds in Catema Bay. And, you know, the fishermen, you know, they've gotten screwed a lot of times with regulations, so they're very touchy about those things, and that did not go over well. And I can remember, I mean, back then in the winter, this place was really small, and I remember Scott saying, and his wife, that, you know, they'd be walking the streets in Edgartown, and somebody would walk up to him and said, you know, to his wife in particular, said, "Oh, you're the biologist's wife, right?" And he said, and she said, "Yeah." And they were like, "Well, we don't like you." And I mean, it's just like really the small town craziness. The fact that I was with the Shellfish Group and I was one step away from all that, if something was a little hot in one town, I could basically like back off a little bit and do something in the other town. So there was something to be said for kind of being, you know, a little bit separated. And like I said, my job was, I stayed out of regulation. You know, I would work through the constables if they asked me, and, you know, they did that dirty work. And I was right there, you know, motherhood, apple pie, and producing shellfish seed. So I think that's why I lasted.